So my question is, we have a lot of, I know the city's moving towards, with the police department, and let me first start off that I do support the police department, but I think this system that they're using is pretty invasive. I think it's actually violating our rights as citizens of surprise, and I'll explain why. Because the Flock APL cameras, and APL means automatic license plate readers. Okay, so every time you drive through one of these intersections that has a camera, it stores your information for 30 days or longer. So say, for instance, you go to work every day, you take your kids to school every day, and you drive past one of these cameras, it's going to store your information indefinitely. The thing with these Flock cameras is there's several hundred law enforcement agencies all around the country that use this, and they actually could share their databases with each other. So a law enforcement agent in Missouri could pull up your information if they wanted to. They don't even have to know you. Not to mention the cybersecurity issues with it is a big problem. I mean, they could get hacked. Your information could be sold on the black market. I mean, there's a lot of bad issues that could happen with this system. I did a public records request with the city manager to get, some more information about the systems. So currently they have 20 Flock cameras in operation throughout the city. They have plans to purchase additional Flock cameras in the near future. Right now, as it stands, the capital cost for the program for our taxpayers paying for the system for 20 cameras is $140,000 and $140,000 basically is what it costs to operate 20 Flock cameras throughout the city. There's been documented abuses all throughout the country with law enforcement agents using these. I'm going to just give you one example of this from Houston Police Department. Despite assurances by the Houston Police Department and city officials that the technology would only be used for legitimate law enforcement purposes, while police are capable of listing reasons for searches, in most cases, they either list nothing or at all or provide a vague or meaningless explanation to logging into the Flock system. 1,500 individuals affiliated with the Houston Police Department used surveillance system in the past 12 months of the Flock systems. In 2/3 of the searches, they listed variations in misspellings of the words investigation or suspect, or a combination of both, to logging into the system without offering specifics about the crimes under investigation or the individuals in question. In thousands of other cases, officers wrote nothing or gibberish like ASDF, the sequence of letters found in the home row of a standard computer keyboard, or to stolen elephant to donut. Multiple officers indicated that they were using the system to conduct random checks while on routine patrol. There's also documented cases of law enforcement officers using the Flock system to stalk ex-spouses and track people's movements. It's been mistakenly used to pull over innocent people at gunpoint because the police didn't have the correct information on the suspect vehicle or individual. It is a clear violation of our Fourth Amendment rights under unreasonable searches and seizures from the government. And just recently, the City of Flagstaff, just this week, actually postponed to renew their contract with the Flock APLR system because this was kind of swept under the rug, kind of like what happened here in Surprise. You guys never had a work session for it. It just kind of went to the department heads and the budgets, and then they actually implemented the system without any kind of public, input on the system, or even for you guys to vote on it, and what your thoughts or opinions were on this Flock system. I think it's a very intrusive system. I do believe, again, don't get me wrong, I support police, but I think just to catch a couple bad guys here and there, and then to basically, violate our rights, I don't think it's a good system. I think it's something that needs to be looked at. I think they need to be taken down. And honestly, $140,000 for 20 cameras, and they plan to purchase more. And then when I talked to the city manager, Mr. Regenroth, the system, not only once you implement it, you have to have software updates and things like that. So the $140,000 isn't a definitive cost, because there's yearly costs and maintenance fees that go into play for this system. So I just think it's a bad system. I think that needs to be taken down. We need to be careful about our individual liberties and our privacy. My biggest concern, again, is the data and the cybersecurity issues of this. They say it's safe, but anything can get hacked. Our credit card systems get hacked. Microsoft gets hacked. I mean, yes. And you know what? Hey, I'm going to say the majority of our surprise police officers are great people, but I'm sure we got a few bad apples out there. We have bad apples. I work in the fire service. I work with bad apples, but a majority of the guys I work with were great. So my thing is I think it's our money could be used better. And honestly, before this technology came along, we were still catching bad guys just like we had in the past. So, so that's my biggest concern about it. I think they need to be taken down.
Well, James, it's good to see you in person. I know you've been pretty active on social media. This is James Ellis, for anyone who's wondering. My first experience with this, and we're going to have, I think, a session where Chief Beecher can kind of come out and discuss kind of the reality. There's a lot of fear mongering and misinformation that's been shared with this. How many of you guys saw the story of the violent criminal who went into the McDonald's on Greenway and Reeves, went into the lady's bathroom, and took a knife and started stabbing a teenaged female employee in the woman's bathroom? Anybody see that story? Yeah. Okay. So that was a situation. He had done that, and he was on the loose and surprised. So this technology helped us find him and identify him and put him away eventually.
They actually found him hours later in a Scottsdale parking garage because it ended up being an interagency, and he was backed into a parking stall on the second or third floor, watching a door when the cops, because the license plate just knew right where he was. Yeah, and they were able to come right in and get him before he got anyone else. And this wasn't his first attack. I mean, this was a bad guy.
Yeah, and I'm not a super expert on this, but I've looked into it a little bit. I was talking to Chief Beecher. When a police officer goes, so I guess it comes down to, do you trust police? It's easy to say you support police, right? I support police, But when you put your money where your mouth is, where do you actually stand? I spoke to the county attorney, Rachel Mitchell, and I asked her, what's your position on this? She said she supports it. She feels like it's life-saving technology. I think there's always a line between freedom and safety. You always got to be careful, not to infringe on that. When an officer goes to access this database, there's a lot of things they have to enter in. They have to enter in their badge number. They have to enter in a reason why they're accessing this. It's not something that we're just like, officers have up and they're just like, it's like they have it up like social media on the screen. Part of this technology also allows police officers to access school cameras in the case of a school shooter or violent criminal on our, we trust the police that is generally going to be a good thing. And there's like these stories, right? And people manipulate these things and talk about, this one person, used it. And absolutely, there are bad apples, like James said. I don't think it's just a majority of our police officers are good police officers in surprise. I think it's like 99.9%. I think all of them, And I don't think that, the many are defined by the few. So we're looking into this. We care about safety and surprise. And I don't want to have our police working with one hand behind their back. If something happened and there was a murder on the loose in surprise, which has happened, if it happened again, and our police, and we weren't giving police every resource they had to catch this person, and they went and killed another resident or something, and it was something because of that we restricted them on, that's something I take seriously. So it's easy to make it political and fear-monger and say, they're spying on you and stuff. And look, I get that. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but at the end of the day, I support our police. We've added police officers. We added 15 police officers this year in the budget. Since the 5 years that I've been on council, and these gentlemen have been on council longer, we've increased our police budget. And of course, we always increase budgets. We've increased it 40%. We prioritize safety and surprise, and we don't just talk about it. We show it. And this is one of the many things we're doing. I love the idea of our police officers being able to, I work at a school. I'm an assistant principal at Cimarron Springs. If something happened, I don't want the police to be scrambling to try to get our camera footage. They can go in, they can see, what's going on, they can identify what they need to. We obviously have the SROs on campus. We don't want to tie their hands behind their backs to do their job. So there is obviously a line between, safety and freedom and how much is too much. We obviously want to I would love to, have our police chief out and just kind of talk more about the actual facts of this too, because a lot of it's, they've been talking about the Flagstaff too, but I support our police, and actually, I try to show that with my actions and not just say it. It's kind of we hear politicians say they support small business. Well, everybody supports small business. No one's ever going to say they oppose small business. But one thing we're trying to do at the next council meeting is cut the small business license or the business licensing. Yeah. So, anyways, that was my plug for the license. Go ahead, James.
Let me ask one question real quick, though. Mm-hmm. So, is your concern more about the safeguards of the technology or the technology itself?
Both.
Okay.
Both of them. Yeah, I just think it's a very intrusive. I think it's a very intrusive technology. I mean, I get it. We have live cameras that are all throughout the city. We have, I mean, other cities have traffic cameras that catch, red light runners, things like that. I know we don't have that here, but we have the live traffic cameras, things like that. I'm okay with that. The fact is that this system, it holds and collects your data for 30 days. Okay, you drive, I mean, yeah, we understand as citizens, as we go out in public, we even go into the store, we're being recorded. I get it, or we're going out in public. Yeah, we're being recorded. I get that, but this is so much different in the fact that not only does it store your information for 30 days, and like I said, I don't believe, they say it's safe, but I don't believe anything can be hacked, and your information could, like I said, could be, put on the black market. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that can happen. And not to mention, if you drive through one of these cameras every day to go to work or you take your kid to school, and you're passing by one of these cameras, your information is stored indefinitely all the time. It's not going to be just, they delete it every 30 days, but every time you drive through one, it always resets for 30 days.
What safeguards would you like to see?
I just like to see them be removed. I don't think there's really. I want them removed. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah, but and we're that's why we're here talking about it. But the thing is the other thing is I had an incident that happened to me in April where I was mistakenly. Actually had an officer show up at my house last April from El Mirage PD because they thought I was in a hit and run accident with the city of El Mirage Police Department. And so what happened was that particular afternoon, there was an accident that happened at El Mirage Road and around Olive Avenue, okay? And I was taking my autistic daughter to a therapy appointment. We were coming back, and I went down Grand Avenue and then went down Thunderbird Road west, heading down Waddell Road back towards my house. Well, I drove through that little section of El Mirage, okay? They got Flock cameras over there, all right? So apparently, my vehicle, the color of it met the description of this hit and run vehicle that was involved with the City of El Mirage vehicle. I had no idea, so I'm coming home. I didn't even stop, directly go home. I actually stopped and to try to go pick up my other daughter, realized she had to stay, and then we went home. And then exactly 10 minutes later, I hear a knock at my door. It's an El Mirage police officer. And he goes, "Were you involved?" Very aggressive, goes, "Were you involved in a vehicle accident earlier?" I said, "No." I said, "When was this?" "Oh, around 1400 hours, so around 2 o'clock. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We have you on camera." And then, I said, "Really? How do you have me on camera?" And I was trying to figure out what was going on because I was very just kind of confused on why he was even at my house. And then he goes, and he was very cryptic, wouldn't tell me why exactly. He goes, "What kind of vehicle was it?" And he goes, "Well, it was a brown vehicle." I said, "Well, yeah, I own a brown vehicle. Because can I take a look at it?" I said, "It's parked in the garage." I said, "Why do you need to see it?" I said, "I wasn't involved in an accident." And he was getting aggressive with me. I said, wasn't involved in an accident. I said, "I don't even understand why you're here." And then when I asked him about it, when I finally let him look at my vehicle so he could do his investigation and whatnot, opened up my garage, let him go in my garage and look at my vehicle. And he inspected it, see there was no damage to my vehicle. And then I asked him, I said, "How did you track me down?" I said, "Just kind of curious." I said, "Was it through the Flock system?" And he goes, "Well, we have our systems." He wouldn't directly answer the question to me. So these are the systems and why it can be mistakenly used. Well, yeah, I get that. I understand that. But why would you say so he obviously hot tracked me all the way back through the cameras, knew my movements and how I got back home. Okay. So I get that. So I know the system works, but I think it's pretty intrusive. I mean, and not to mention, you've seen this, people were mistakenly getting pulled over because they were misidentifying the individuals or the vehicles or even the license plates, getting pulled over by gunpoint. Do you think that's right, Chris? Like a felony stop. So they're being pulled over by gunpoint.
Police are going to investigate a crime. If someone hit my car and ran away, they found the person, maybe they got the wrong person first. I'd like them to find them personally.
Would you like to be pulled over by gunpoint?
I mean, when does that happen?
Nobody wants to be pulled over.
Well, no, it's documented. It's been documented.
It's happened one time. So I mean,
it's happening all over the country.
I mean, James,
no, Jack. This is legitimate information. So
try to scare people.
I'm not trying to scare people. This is legitimate information.
We're surprises on that, and I'll take care of it.
The aggressive El Mirage police officer. I'd like to see the body cam footage too.
Absolutely. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you.
It comes down to do you trust our police officers? I do. I support our police. There's always going to be people like James out there.
Gosh.
So. Come on.
So James, these are legitimate questions, and I appreciate you bringing them
Well,
up.
see how like immature he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, but these are genuine concerns that you have, and they're valid concerns.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not all gonna agree with each other on the depth of the concerns, but it's important you bring them up and that we're mindful of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, and like I said, I mean, this is our taxpayer money going to use this technology, so I have every right to speak about it, you know.
And I know from
yeah,
conversations in the past, you've had some concerns with how we keep public informed about bad people around, and this, in my book, sort of goes, so I know those are things that you're concerned about, knowing where the bad people are, and making sure that your family's safe. And that's, from my viewpoint, these help keep families safe, and so I like having them up. From your viewpoint, they're just over the line, right? And so we understand each other on that, and there's nothing wrong with your viewpoint at all.
Absolutely. And my other concern is, okay, so if we're allowed, and we're as a society, we're allowing this to happen. I mean, we see this stuff in China and communist countries, you know, where they surveil their people all the time.
Right.
So what is the next step? Like, okay, if we're okay with this, what's going to be the next step that we go towards?
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly,
And so
exactly. You know,
it's important that you voice the concerns.
Yeah.
And then wherever we go, there's going to be a group of people say, "Well, you've gone too far." Right? No matter how conservative it is, there's going to be a group of people that say you've gone too far. Hopefully, the further too far we go, the more people start pushing back, to push that line back to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so keep voicing your opinion. There's nothing wrong with your opinion.
And again, I'm not, you know, bad mouthing the police. I support the police, okay? But there is a certain point where I think, okay, we need to look at our technology and maybe reevaluate things.
Right.
That's all.
I mean, so
You know.
when I keep pointing to these, I know these things surveil the heck out of us.
Yeah.
We don't even know the depth of it.
Yeah.
But let's keep moving. I've got a bunch of hands up. I've got a couple back here. One of you two, you both took turns raising hands. I don't know if you got tired.
I just wanted to say on the camera thing, my understanding is it captures the license plate number. I know it runs for stolen vehicles or wanted vehicles, but I don't think it lists license plate number, car, all that kind of stuff to begin with. There's obviously an opportunity for somebody to look deeper into the plates that go by and stuff like that. But the other point is, what are people doing with this information? At least 2 people in this room are recording everything we're doing right now. I don't consent to that. I know it's a reality.
Public meeting.
I understand that.
It's still a public meeting.
I
He's making
understand that.
that point.
And just as going into any store or going into anywhere, people have their phones out. Who knows what's gonna happen with them? This is the world we live in, you know. Our phones are listening to us, whether we have it on record or not. So it's just, we just need to be careful, but I think, just taking the whole thing down really, takes away the resources that they have, so.
I have to say, I think everybody in this room, you're already on the dark web. I work a lot with security, and you're already there. Yeah, I've worked all my life under security. I work a lot with security.
Well, that kind of goes to James's point, right?
It's still.
But you also want safeguards in there.
Absolutely. What I didn't like about it was, like, you know, when you guys approved just earlier this year, the fire department, the new, you know, Octobon systems where, you know, they change the lights when they're going to an emergency call. You know, I saw that work session where the chiefs were there, the fire chiefs were there. You guys approved it, you know. I mean, to me, seemed like it was almost kind of swept under the rug because they knew that maybe people would have some pushback on this system, you know. Like, instead of having it go to a council work session for you guys to vote on it, to have people, citizens like myself or other people to go in there to voice their concerns about it, either for their supporting it or they don't like it. I just think it was kind of maybe purposely done, you know, like they should have went to a council work session, even though I get that, you know, the department heads get their funding and then, you know, then they purchase these, you know, technologies, you know, sometimes without work sessions. But I think this was a pretty important matter that should have went to a work session, to be perfectly honest with you, Chris.
Chris, can I say,
Yeah.
any unauthorized use of that type of information, like in a CJIS, which is, the criminal justice database, and there have been cases where somebody has used that for various reasons, well in the private and the public sector. But I can guarantee you, that because I work for the agency that is the keeper of all of that in the state, there are severe consequences for anybody using that for those reasons. At the very least, it is termination from the law enforcement agency you are working for. So, $140,000 is a drop in the bucket. Yes, it is, in my opinion.
That's your opinion, yeah.
Yes, I know. So I can tell you though, that for anybody who uses that information they get from Flock, for any reason other than what its purpose is for, there are consequences to that individual. So it is highly monitored. I'm retired from my career, but I still keep up on all that. So just to say that, if anyone were to use it, for any reason other than its intention, I know that there will be consequences.
So so my mom actually worked for DPS and she actually used to do the audits procedures. So I'm very well aware how that works. That's a whole different system than Flock. So that's a whole different system than Flock, you know?
Yeah.
And if
but
you,
it's still information, that was your
Yeah,
concern, that it's
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Tell me what business does it.
Yeah.
You know, good morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now,
Yeah.
We should walk into fraud.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. But it's just a little bit different. That's all.
My son-in-law does banking.
Yeah, I get it. I respect you and I totally understand your opinions, okay? Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so real quick, Duffy and I agreed we're gonna get this on the agenda. Why don't you send us a list of specific questions? We'll make sure they answer those questions publicly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. I really would, you know.
Yeah, what we'll do when we leave here, we've got two things on the agenda so far, that'll be one of them. And
Yeah.
just either one of us the questions, we'll make sure we get it to staff.
I just would have liked to have seen it go to a work session, honestly. You know, I mean, so that way, you know, everybody's informed on it. You know, it's out there in the public. Because really, the only thing you guys was like a soft rollout on social media last March about it, and that was it. So not everybody follows social media, you know. So that's.
Lots of the HOAs are doing this too. I know my HOAs.
Well, Sierra, Montana, just south of me, they have them, and that's different because it's private property. Okay, it's not the government doing it, you know. So, you know, so I mean, so that private property people like, and even Home Depot has them over there at Grand and Bell.
Well,
you
somebody's
know.
pointing this one here. We've got.
Yeah.
We're being recorded by this one as well.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys.
Oh.
Can I change topics? And I'm sorry, since we were.
Anybody having any questions about Flock? We'll have it on an open session. If you also have questions, please send them to either Duffy or I. We'll make sure we get those questions answered publicly. Okay, go ahead.
Where is a city with public transportation?
So we're doing.
What specifically you're looking for?
Well, since we got rid of